Where are we? It's all streaks of peach and swirls of cream. Wasn't the universe ending? And weren't the Higgins and Tarians about to invade North End?
It's not just me then. I thought we'd missed an episode or something. Shh, now Polly, the credits are about to start.
I wish I was a spaceman, the fastest guy alive. I'd fly you around the universe.
The Laura Pendlebury Adventures by Brian Hughes, Episode 3, Death and Other Humorous Stories.
One of the questions that quantum physicists often fail in their arrogance to ask is whether or not a soul exists. This is because, as far as they're concerned, it doesn't, and in their case this might be correct. For the rest of us, however, our own self-awarenesses suggest that the soul is genuine. The real question ought to be, does everything else exist, or is the universe just an elaborate construct of our own imaginations? For Laura Pendlebury and Polly Jenkins, having just witnessed the collapse of reality, it was a question that was about to be answered, if only they had bothered to pay attention.
Exfoliate, raise your rubbery pink fingers, you hideous shaved orangutans. You will accompany me to the supreme pepper pot or be eliminated.
Is that a Dalek?
What have I told you about the BBC copyright laws, Polly? It's obviously a pepperpot, one of the smallest but most deadly races in the cosmos. Although I must admit, I expected them to be slightly taller than 3 feet. Apparently, when they're not out conquering worlds, they freelance as plumbers. I think it's trying to singe my kneecap.
The word Dalek appears in the Oxford English Dictionary. I don't see how the BBC can own the patent on something that's public domain. They've been foist upon their own petard, I reckon, which should bring tears to their nepotistic eyes, always assuming they don't own the copyright on petards as well.
Ejaculate, stop squabbling, you bulbous warty toads. Don't procrastinate, shift those short fat hairy legs or you will be emancipated.
That doesn't even make sense. This is a contest to see how far we can push it with the BBC legal stuff. Why is it threatening us with that egg whisk? What is it going to do? Make us omelette?
It's obviously got a Napoleon complex. I haven't got short, fat, hairy legs. It just that the seams on my denims have been tailored in an unconventional place on my legs for jeans. Speaking of which, that pepperpot on casters, isn't it? Didn't we hear footsteps when it came in? It must be time to sack the Foley artist.
Given that beyond the invention of superstitious minds there is no being of higher intelligence to have written the laws of physics in the first place, the natural state of the universe is one of chaos. Throw a penny in the air and we'll assume it'll land either heads or tails up, or, very occasionally perhaps, on its edge. At no time would you expect it to turn into a chicken and dance a samba. However, in its raw state, this is exactly what the universe does on a regular basis. That's because reality is just a dream inside our heads, and our dreams themselves are simply windows onto the true nature of eternity. In this regard, Laura Pendlebury and Polly Jenkins were now on the far side of the looking glass as they entered the Parliament of the Pepperpots.
Why does it resemble Thornton Village with headed zeppelins floating above it, and lots of pepperpots all jiggling about, bursting from the bog? Come to think of it, how do they balance bursting over the bowl? Have they got poop hatches round the back, or do they just put in a new shell and the old one's full?
When the universe collapsed, Polly, the reality we constructed for ourselves collapsed with it. What you're witnessing here is the true reality. It resembles the reality we thought we knew, but has a lot more pepperpots and other nightmares lurking in it.
That was unusually informative, Laura. How do you know this stuff?
I was paying attention to what the narrator said as we were being frog-marched here by our tin pot dictator. Okay, Charlie J, where's this supreme cruet of yours then?
Articulate, menstruate, down on your chewy pluck loose knees, earth females. Gesticulate to our suspiciously phallic supreme overlord.
Where is that? Is it hiding behind Marshmallow?
Actually, Laura, I think it is Marshmallow. The sails appear to be its moustache. I wonder what sort of massive, hideous mutant lives inside.
Insert name of fat, ugly celebrity here. There's a door, Polly. At least I hope it's a door. It might just be female. Let's go in. Either way, we'll find out what the creature looks like, or it'll be so pleasured by the experience it might just let us off.
One of the most often raised points on Whovian forums, generally by people for whom grammar is obviously about as alien as the opposite sex, is that Moffat's scripts are too complicated. Personally, I suspect that Doctor Who wouldn't have survived for 50 years if Moffat was still producing plots whereby the TARDIS simply landed, the Doctor defeated the baddies, and the TARDIS buggered off again. Television shows have to evolve, and anybody complaining about this is not only admitting to being an opinionated geek, but one too stupid to follow plotlines aimed at 8-year-olds. My recommendation would be a DVD of Hector's House instead. Anyhow, back to our own plot, and Laura and Polly now found themselves in a labyrinth of machinery-filled rooms that resembled a cross between an MC Escher drawing and the Street of Crocodiles. And if you didn't get to either of those references, then Hector's House is probably still available from those good DVD stockists.
The perspective's gone all to pot. How come I'm walking upside down on the same stairs as you, Polly, when you're the right way up? And why have you got an apple floating in front of your face? Seriously, how many people are going to get a René Magritte reference?
Is this what you dream about, Laura? If we ever get out of this, I think you should consider getting yourself a CPN. One with rubber wallpaper and a big set of keys.
2 little boys had 2 little toys. Each had a wooden horse. Gaily they played.
That was Rolf Harris doing his Jake the Peg impersonation, although his third leg didn't particularly look limb-like. It was a bit shorter than you'd expect. It was pointing the wrong way. This is getting altogether creepy, especially considering Operation U-Treat. Look, there's a door in the skirting board, Polly. Let's get out of here.
Through that? It's only 4 inches high. Who do you think I am, Frankie Dettori?
There's a chocolate brownie on this table. Look, with a label on it that reads, "Eat me." Give it a try and see what happens.
It appears my arse has grown massive. Apart from that, I'm still the same size.
I should have checked the other side of the ticket, really. It says Thornton's Luxury Selection. Look, there's a steak and kidney pie from Beans with it. I'd offer to eat it myself, but I'm a vegan.
Really? I thought you'd been bonking that bloke from the co-op.
The working classes of Britain have nobody to blame but themselves for the mess that the country is in. Despite centuries of compounded evidence with regards to greed, corruption and self-serving policies, they continue to vote time and time again for the Tory party. The number of working class voters far outweighs the middle class and upper crust voters combined, but rather than use this to their advantage to establish a socialist fairer for all government, they continually back the inbred, filthy rich, chinless, eaten wonders, who, once back in power, work them into the grave, tax all their money off them, hand it on a plate to their filthy rich mates and piss it up the nearest brothel wall without a smidgen of social consciousness. This has nothing to do with our adventure. It's just something I wanted to get off my chest. Back to the plot, and after a great deal of trial and error involving muffins, baked spuds, raspberry tarts and licorice all sorts, Laura and Polly found themselves just the right size to squeeze through the diminutive exit.
We're on the balcony of some enormous baroque room. It's a terrible room, only the dance floor is filled with pepperpots, waltzing with rubbery creatures and unconvincing giant bumblebees, rather than the usual ensemble of almost dead pensioners living their wartime affairs with American soldiers that makes this place so much fun.
Now, who's stating the obvious? And next time you use the word fun with such contempt, try not to cop on my nose, will you?
Sorry, I figured our whereabouts, given the chaotic nature of this episode, might not be immediately obvious from the distorted Glenn Miller soundtrack. Apparently the Foley artist couldn't get hold of any Reginald Dixon.
We're really going to have to sack that pillock.
Well, if it isn't feminism's answer to Abbott Costello, so glad you could join us in our last waltz here at the end of the universe, ladies.
Is that Davros?
No, it isn't, Polly. It's Stephen Hawking, supreme creator of the Daleks.
You mean the Pepperpots?
Yes, supreme creator of the Pepperpots. He's our local baker, as I've mentioned before. As our lawyers want us to reiterate or butcher something, I've forgotten what I said now.
Seriously? It was a toss-up between going head-to-head with a BBC copyright lawyer and slandering one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, whilst insulting every other disabled person in Britain, and the BBC lawyers won. They really must have friends in high places.
Don't you two ever stop clucking. You're like a pair of frustrated bantams. Becky had a grumble non-stop. It's like overhearing Chris Evans making love to Robin Williams. Not that I've ever done that. I have the technology, of course, but regardless. Well, this is where your incessant squabbling ends, with one simple flick of the switch on my General Fix-It chair, which I'll have to accomplish using the tip of my nose, not being able to move my limbs.
What's that emerging from the arm of his chair on a befitting rod? It looks like a Victoria's Secret's fat boy with rabbit ears.
Oh my god! It's a heat-seeking missile. Polly, hoist up your bloomers over the balcony. Quick!
On a subatomic scale, the seemingly impossible narrative of the universe's existence resonates to Planck's constant, a numerical quotient so inconceivably vast that even John Prescott's Taylor's tape measure couldn't stand out.
I brought you your coffee, dear. You got eggs under your eyes. All these late nights on your annual bedroom without female company can't be doing you any
What the
good.
hell are you doing, Mum? I'm in the middle of recording something important here.
That's nice, dear. Have you been masturbating? I'll get some air freshener in the morning. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Even Cliff Richards does it, probably. Although he doesn't go to the toilet and wipe his bum like other men, of course. He employs angels to do that for him.
Get out, you monstrous old bag!
Ooh, somebody needs their Rolex. You finished pulling your pud, dear? I'll let you know when Only Connect comes on.
For crying out loud. Well, who cares? Oh yes, Polly and Laura have just jumped off the balcony and landed in some cobbled Victorian street that bears an uncanny resemblance to Mount Crescent in Fleetwood. I wouldn't mind, but she didn't even bring me a jammy Dodger.
Excellent. No broken bones. Good job I landed on you, Polly. You've just been promoted from incompetent assistant to personal airbag.
Am I suffering from asphyxiation caused by your arse crushing my nose, or did that pillar box just dematerialise in front of us? Is that some sort of twatter?
Don't say that, Polly. That's my evil stepbrother, the one you've never heard of before, despite the fact I've known you all my life. His name is Mr...
Mr. what?
Just Mr. My parents were somewhat middle class and lazy when it came to bringing up us kids. The dogs were given 3 names each, but we had to make do with whatever we found on cornflake packets.
He's got extremely menacing eyes, especially when they're framed by the roster slot like that. What's he up to in there?
It's cramped inside his twatter, Polly. He's got to wait for the postman to unlock the door before he can climb out. He's a genius with temporal physics, but a bit crap with practical DIY. How's it hanging, mister? Hemorrhoids still giving you jip? Still running around shrinking your enemies with that Black Mamba vibrator deluxe of yours?
I'm on the toilet. You haven't got any bog roll, have you, Laura? Never mind, I found a letter of some optimistic kid posted to Santa. By the time I finish with it, Gertrude Ostleswaite of 72 Park Drive, Thornton, will just be getting a smack round the ear for Christmas.
At least whilst you're stuck in there, there's no immediate threat to run away from.
Apart from that.
By the enormous twerking rump of Diane Abbott, it's a cyberbitch, a 400-foot high steampunk factory with industrial Victorian chimneys belching smoke from its oily mechanical limbs, an articulated robot abattoir with a human cell, where ordinary humble folk are surgically transformed into cyberpunks through the excessive use of aviation goggles and accessories designed from the interior workings of broken clocks.
That was a concise summary. I suggest we pick a front door in one of those houses at random and disappear faster than Jimmy Carr's tax returns.
There now follows a heart-stopping pursuit through various complex and highly expensive-looking corridors. As tradition befits, we beg the listeners' indulgence to exercise their imaginations wherever possible.
Watch out for that giant, perfectly round rolling pinball-like boulder heading towards you, Laura.
Pull the third book from the second shelf down, Polly. One with secret passage written on the side.
Laura, we're back in the twatter after a series of narrow escapes and unlikely death-defying scenarios, although I appear to have several robotic piranhas attached to my bum by their teeth.
We should be safe for now, Polly. Hopefully we brought ourselves enough time to construct a machine that might release us from this surreal nightmare. There should be a box of old junk under the directory stand somewhere. Yes, here it is. To work!
Time passes.
And stop playing that bloody harp.
That's rubbish. What is it? It looks like a biscuit tin on wheels with antennae for whiskers.
I call it feline, Polly. A woman's best friend, other than a box of Q-tips and a Terry's chocolate orange. It should make a more useful companion than you at any rate. It reacts to olfactory stimulus. All I do is open this can of tuna. I want you to plot a route out of this chaotic dump feline, then figure out a way to reconstruct our own reality, as it was before we tore a hole in it.
Legacy busting restaurant! What do you think I am? The Admiral Clayton! I reckon I'll just take it up under the consoling shade, then go to sleep in the airing cupboard. Wake me up if you get any freshly cooked chicken.
Well, that was a waste of 4 hours' work.
Good job we're not on a desperate race against time to halt the total oblivion of the universe or anything.
Don't worry, Polly. I have another cunning plan up my coat sleeve. One that should resolve this situation once and for all and get us permanently out of this mess. But not until the next episode, apparently.
Death and Other Humorous Stories was conceived through the bottom of a pint glass by Brian Hughes and starred Juliet Gregson as Laura Pendlebury, Michelle Harris as Polly Jenkins, Danny Sedgwick as numerous characters, and Stuart Hall as Prisoner Nought. The music, as always, was produced by Kevin MacLeod, and the sound effects were stolen from the soundtrack of David Attenborough's Life on Earth. The Pepperpots appeared courtesy of Marks and Spencer's Kitchen Department. Make sure you tune in again, astrophysics fans, for the next transmogrifying episode. Let's kill David Cameron!